Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is Maniac Monday. Today we're going to talk about this picture here, which is team up for success. You got a lion and you got an elephant. So did they collaborate? No, what they did was they teamed up, which is about the same, but it's 1 degree difference because they're in the savannah and it's on fire and it's Maniac Monday. And so they had to follow each other. So the lion took the lead, the elephant followed. Granted, for this one time pass, with the lion rolling and the elephant following, it just made for a greater time and a greater way to survive. And it is Maniac Monday. Team up for success. Right on, right on, right on. This is your host with the most. So anyway, as that fire rages, which usually happens on a lot of Mondays, and other days too, but specifically Mondays, especially if you came off vacation or you had a great weekend, you got to team up. And sometimes you got to team up to be a better self, and sometimes you got to team up with others, and sometimes you got to do a combination thereof. And so what makes it great is that the lion is not worried about being a predator. He's turned his predation into getting out of the fire. And true predators are predators. But in this case, it's better to live to fight another day. And so the elephant is just as bigger than the lion, and it's only one lion. So now it's equally yoked. And as they're equally yoked, there ain't nothing to talk about. Now the elephant's tusk kind of broke off a little bit. Maybe the poachers got him. We don't know. Maybe his tusk is just regenerating, from all the battles that they've been having. So we don't know if it's a male or female, but for this case, we're going to say it's a male since we already quantified the lion as a male. So these two are an unlikely pair as they walk through the valley of the shadow of death. There they go, and they're rolling through like it's nothing. And this is how you got to be when the chips are down and those things that are around. There's nothing but clowns around you, imbeciles and half wits. You gotta keep your wits about yourself. And the reason being because all they do is create problems. And we're talking about in situations of danger, of stress, of things of that nature. Everybody learns different. But in a situation of immediacy, then what happens is those that can think got a better chance to survive. Those that can think conducive are 100% going to try to stay alive. And those that can't think are going to take that nosedive. And so it's important that you keep your wits and to keep your cool and to keep your calmness and to not let your feelings weigh you down. And those feelings that you have to flee, you do it with a nice brain, with a nice thought pattern as you try to figure out as you're rolling. So it's important. Some people, they just can't handle emergencies. Some people thrive in emergencies. Those people are the ones that have to connect the most because it might be a situation where you can be in the middle of a fire and it's all hands on deck to get out of that fire. So we're going to give a shout out to our first responders all around the world because this is how they do. They team up, they work together as much as possible. And so you got to take that model, whether it be in business, life, or health, and you got to take the advice and you got to take what's good and bad in this situation and apply it so that you can make the correct decisions about moving through life's ills, moving through life's crash and burn. Because a lot of times you might be on that path where something happened and there was a crash and then a place started burning. It could be all the systems are down and there's a lot of stress going around. And so you got to be the person to understand what the stress is about And how can you mitigate even more risk? And it depends whether you're in a personal space or a group dynamical space. And that group dynamical space is that when you in it, you realize that there's always going to be a leader and there's always going to be followers. And sometimes there's many leaders and not enough followers. Whoever has the most experience or whoever has the most clear or the clearest thought process, is going to win the day and win the battle. And so every moment counts and every thought process counts. Got to be able to think on your feet. And that's what these two did. So this is a classic representation of teaming up and getting out. Now you can say it's somewhat of a collaboration, which is actually the correct term. But because these are two competing entities in the real world, then you have to understand that it is a team up. And that full collaboration probably happened when the lion said, I'm going this way. And it looks like the lion knows where they're going. And the elephant says, okay, we're going this way. So either way it go, both teams win because they're both moving towards a situation that's conducive to them some kind of way. And that's all you want out of life when you're in these types of situations. So you got to keep your wits, as we said earlier. And if you can keep your wits and you can solve it, and you can solve it in a good time, then you got a distinct chance of making it out or making it through or making yourself better as you do it. So it's important, very important, that you have a pre-plan, a pre-launch, something that you can fall back on with your protocol. And it's important that you have something that is conducive to you. And if you're in a group, it's conducive to the group. So I remember when they used to teach us in school, we used to have a fire drill, earthquake drill, and I think one time we had just a general drill for a nuclear blast. And so as I got older, that became irrelevant, and so we thought. But it actually was relevant the whole time. So it was what it was, but it trained us to be, and it trained me to be, better at managing stress and better at understanding what the rules of the engagement was going to be in order to make it through those trying times. And so if you're in a Maniac Monday today and you feel like it's burning up because of the amount of stress, stressors, and inadequacy that you're around, then you got to think it through. And you got to think on your feet. And you got to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And if you're out of alignment, 1, 2, 3, 5, 4, then you got to be able to get back in to alignment so that you can move through it. So if you have a bunch of deadlines or you have a bunch of stress that's out there, only thing you can do is be the best you can be. When they ask for the impossible, deal with the possible to get to the impossible. Once you break it down like that, you cut your stress level. You hear a lot of people say, they're asking the impossible. There's no way it can happen. But because they are asking for the impossible, that means that you can still do the possible and then add a second module or a third module to make it the impossible. So you're going to stick with what you know, and then you still have to think outside of the box to figure that deadline out or the impossible. So obviously, you got a shot, and you always got a shot to win. There's never any time for losing. And how you win is you figure out what's conducive, and if it's an out-of-the-box situation where you got to think like that, then you take your DNA and what you've learned from before, and you put it to a minimum, and then you get in a group, and you let the dynamics of the group with the possible thinking and a solution to come forth. And it might be a conglomeration, collaboration, or it just be a team situation that'll get you through. So you want to keep it as positive as possible. And if you can do that, then you're on your way to victory. But even if it is negative, you can turn it back into a positive. It just depends on the group dynamics and it depends on you. If your heart gets involved, you got a chance of not winning and you got a chance of winning. So you got to know when to be all gas and when to pump the brakes. And you got to do that because that's going to keep you in your creative mind and not in your competitive mind. These two creatures here, the lion and the elephant, they decided that they weren't going to be in a competitive mind. They were going to be in a creative mind to make it out of this fire on the savannah. We don't know how big the fire is. We don't know what the metrics of it is. But we just know that they're walking through it. And they're walking through it proudly. As if to say, if we can do it, you can do it. And this is an AI representation, which we did on appai.site, APPAI.site. And this is where they make artificial intelligence easy. And so this picture was rendered in less than 5 minutes. So there you can do movies, pictures, hyper-realistic image, and this is what this is. It's a hyper-realistic image. You can do voiceovers. You can do music to make your music, to make the beats or the harmony, so to speak. You've got what they call a task flow. And that task flow is what they call a Kanban board, where you put a project in and you move from inception to finish to success, which would be in the 80s would have been an in and out box that you had on your desk at work, but it's online now. So those are some of the things that you can do in it, and it's very enlightening because you couple that with AI. And now you can create your efficiency 100%, sometimes 1,000%, depending on how many tools you want. There's over 50 apps inside of appai.site. Go over there, join them, get in, learn, and do what you need to do. And so what we say is the best way to be right now is to be efficient. So that if you want to increase your bottom line in life, you can. If you want to increase your bottom line in your personal, you can. And if you want to increase your bottom line in your business, you can. So all of those things wrapped up into one to make you more efficient and to make you more into your creative mind. And if you're not a creator, it doesn't matter. It matters that you're going to create a situation where you're working so efficiently that you become a creator by default, if I may. So that's appai.site. It is a Maniac Monday, and I am your host with the most, Mr. David, better known as DateApp, or R Todd, Real Time On Demand if you're in business. So we always are going to end this with this. What I wish for myself, I wish for others. And what I wish for others, I wish for myself. I ask that you stay with me as we roll through these little bitty streams that are much impact. So the little bitty is because they're not too long, they're not too short, especially this week. But they're just right. And it's so to keep you motivated and keep your game tight. We want to make sure that when you go to bed, that you don't stress and don't sleep that night. So keep it rolling, keep it good, keep it excellent, and keep it you. So be the best, and may you win every day today. Right on, right on, right on. This is Mr. David signing off.